everyone, I'm Rebecca Keppel, and this is the February 2017 edition of Stash Bash. And this month we are going to bash our stash of enamel dots and gems. And you can see that I've made cards where I've taken my enamel dots and laid them over die cuts in order to create a pattern. It creates dimension, lots of shine. So I die cut this rainbow from a Lawn Fawn die, and then I added Queen and Company little iridescent pearls on top. So I'm going to show you exactly how I did this and how it uses up a great ton of epoxy dots. And I have the Queen & Co. Spring Shaker set that has a die for a cloud and a sun. I've already cut out my pieces. So I have a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 piece of pattern paper. I have a sun die cut from pattern paper. This is all from Queen & Company. And I have the iridescent pearls from Queen & Co. in yellow and orange. So I'm going to use those to add lots of dimension and shine to the sun. I also have some thermoweb adhesives. I have my Memory Runner XL, that's for all the paper to paper. And then I'm using my iCraft mixed media adhesive, and I've added a different tip to it because I want to send this card through the mail and I want to make sure those enamel dots don't go anywhere. So I'm going to add, there's already adhesive on them, but I'm going to add some mixed media adhesive to really make sure that they stay. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my card base, which is just a white piece of paper, and I'm going to take my Memory Runner XL. You can see that I die cut out a sun from this already, and I'm going to use this piece that was a scrap left over. I'm going to lay it down on top of my white card base, and then I'm going to paper piece my sun back together. So I'm going to line up this piece of pattern paper onto the card base, and once I have that adhered, then I'm going to start to add the sun back into that die cut piece. So I've cut the sun out of 2 different colors of Queen & Co. pattern paper, both out of yellow and orange. And I just need to decide which one I want on the bottom. And I realized that having the yellow sun as the center, it would be more fun if the orange were on top, just kind of for a different effect and more interest. So I'm going to adhere the yellow down first, and I'm just going to use a little Memory Runner XL. And then I'm just going to pop it right into place into this die cut piece where there's the opening in the striped pattern paper. So you can see I'm just matching up the rays to what's already die cut down there, and it lays right in perfectly. So now I'm going to add the orange on top, and I'm just going to shift it ever so slightly. I'm not going to have it be right on top. I'm going to shift it slightly so that you see both colors, and I think that adds some fun interest to this sun. So then the next thing that we'll do is add the center, and that is again just using some Memory Runner XL and just going to pop it right into place there, and it fits perfectly. That's the fun thing with these dies that cut multiple pieces. They all fit together, so you can cut them out of different pattern papers and have a lot of fun with them, paper piecing them together. So now I'm going to grab the 2 different iridescent pearls, and I'm going to line them all up. And you can see in the rainbow, you can't have them exactly next to each other, 2 or 3 of them together because in different rows, because they're so big. So I'm going to try and figure out a way to fill this whole sun, but be able to fit a bunch of them in there. So I'm going to use the mixed media adhesive, and I'm doing it at the top, the bottom, and each side. And then once that's done, I'm going in between each of those. Now there's open spaces in between each of those, and I'm going in with the orange, and I really like the way that looks. I think that's super fun. So I'm going to do the same exact thing, and like I said, you have to go in between 2 of them. You can't go right next to each other when you're doing that second row. They just don't fit together like that. So now I'm doing, again, another row of every other one is yellow and orange. And same thing all the way to the middle, and you can see I fit one more right in there, and now we have this great sun that I love because there's lots of dimension, lots of shine, lots of interest. So you've created this really fun center embellishment piece for your card or layout. This would be great on layouts too. So I have a little frame piece here that's a stitched border frame that I'm just going to lay on top of that. I think it gives kind of a nice closed effect to this little scene here that we're creating. And so I'm just using my Thermoweb Memory Runner XL again, just to put a little bit of adhesive around the edges there. And then I'm just going to line that up right on top of my card. And once that's all done, then we're going to move on to the next step. So next I have a die cut cloud out of white cardstock that's using the Queen & Co die again. I have some Tim Holtz Distress ink in tumbled glass, and I have a Tim Holtz ink blending tool, the small round foam tool, and that's great for adding a little bit of ink around the edges. I really like that effect because the cloud is still white, but it has that slight bluish tint to the outside that I think is really pretty. Next, we're going to stamp our sentiment on that card, and we're going to use the Paper Smooches Set Fun and Flirty. And I love this one sentiment, You Are My Sunshine. I used to sing that song to my kids all the time, so it's one of my favorite little sentiments to use. And especially with the sun and the clouds, I think it's absolutely perfect here. So I'm going to use my Hamilton Art Stamp Perfect, which is a stamp positioner. I have some magnets that I'm holding my cloud down with, and then I'm going to figure out exactly where I want the sentiment. Once I have that positioned, I'm going to close the door. I'm being very gentle because I don't want the cloud to move around. I'm afraid with the magnets it might shift, but it didn't. And so I'm going to grab some ink, and I think this time I'm going to use some VersaFine. This is the black onyx. This is a black pigment ink, so I am going to heat emboss this, just cleaning up the little bit that I got on the door there with my Lawn Fawn chamois. So I'm going to close the door and stamp, and then I did it again because I felt like I wasn't getting a great impression, and by the third time I had it perfect. So now I'm going to add some clear embossing powder. I'm holding it down with a paintbrush and then coming in with my heat tool and heat embossing it. Now I have another cloud that I've also used some distress ink around the outside, but I'm not putting a sentiment on that one. I'm going to adhere that with the Memory Runner XL, and then I'm going to pop the sentiment up with some Thermoweb Zots. Now these are the 3D Thermoweb Zots. They are clear, which is really awesome because then you don't see them peeping out from behind your project. So I'm going to lay the cloud down on top of the Zot and then pull it off the backing paper, and then you can see those two clear dimensional dots there. And I'm just going to add this a little higher up, and I think that's great, but it needed something else, so I grabbed some Queen & Co. little raindrops. These are some more gems, and added those. And there, now I think my card is done. I've used up a couple of packs of enamel dots, so I think this is a great way to bash your stash is by using a die cut and then filling it in with enamel dots or gems. So now it's time to hop on over to Susanna Lee's YouTube channel, and she has something great planned for you over there as well. And if you get lost, I've listed everybody that's involved in this hop. So I just wanted to say thanks so much for stopping by, and have a great day.